I have been a nurse for the majority of their life. I've been a nurse now for 12 years. When I decided to become a nurse, it was a second career for me. I thought I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. So I went to school, got my degree in communications, did a little bit of broadcast journalism for a little while, did an internship for an NBC affiliate, and I just realized it was not for me. And then I started having kids and was like, I would really love to be a nurse. And it kind of was propelled forward with my twins spending some time in the NICU. They were born 3.5 months early. So I really got a sense of the responsibility it was to work in the hospital, be a nurse, and care for these critical patients. And I loved everything about it. So shortly after that, while they were still really little, I decided to do a different career, change careers, and go into nursing school. So I became a nurse. And when I started nursing school, I knew that I wanted to eventually get into flight nursing. So I kind of always steered my direction of nursing that way. You can go many different routes in nursing. That's what's great about it. You can decide you want to work with a certain type of patient population and then decide to go and do something different or teach or not work in the hospital anymore. So that's what's awesome and great about nursing. But I always knew I kind of wanted to go the flight nursing path. So I worked intensive care unit right after nursing school. And then I went directly into flight nursing and have been doing that for almost 6 years.
Wow. Now, like, when did the flight nursing idea like come about? Because I have an older sister. She's a nurse, and she never brought up like that career option. If I'd have known that, maybe I'd have looked into it.
Yeah, well, we had a local company where I live in Central California. And so they would fly into the hospital. They would take patients out of the ICU that I worked in when I was an ICU nurse there. And I just was like, these people, I love their confidence. I love that they know what to do. I love that they get to care for one patient who's really, really sick at a time. And so that's when I just really sparked my interest in becoming it and doing it. I think just seeing the local agency pick up patients and bring them in was something that was really interesting to me. And so that's kind of where I just got started with the idea of it and worked towards it after that.
Now, as far as like your upbringing, like through like high school, were you into like National Honor Society, any kind of extracurricular activities?
Yeah, I was a kid who always wanted to be doing something. So I loved school. I was also one who loved school, but loved extracurricular activities too. So I played basketball, I played softball. The arts is really big where I grew up too. So being in choir, being in drama was like what everybody wanted to do. So I did a little bit of that. I also played in the orchestra for the first couple years in high school, and then kind of there just decided what I was most interested in. I really wanted to beef up my application because I knew I wanted to attend a university after high school. So it was important for me to kind of just try out a little bit of everything. And then after my first couple years in high school, I really found what I was really interested in, and then really pursued that. And so other than school, I was really involved in sports and then doing the choir and the drama. I really loved doing that. So that's kind of what my high school career consisted of.
Okay, okay. Now, as far as like your multitasking skills, did you pick that up from like someone older, or that's just something that you were always good at, juggling two or three things all at once?
I think I'm interested in always doing something. So I think that's where multitasking has been so interesting to me. But I also think at the same time, you have to be interested in what you're doing all the time. So, what I'm trying to teach my kids who are high schoolers now is that I'm going to support you and whatever you decide you want to do, whatever that is, whether it's going to college, not going to college, whether it's, wanting to be a YouTuber when you grow up or not. It's really just sticking with what you're interested in and then getting the support from the people that you're surrounded by and that love you, that can help you get get where you want to go.
Mhm.
And I think like the big messages and the big message that I tell my clients too, because I also do life coaching and mentoring for other nurses, um, is that no matter what circumstance you came from, no matter what happened in your childhood, no matter what happened in your career before, you can always get where you want to go if you just believe in it. You have the support of the people who love you, and you just continue to work at it every day.
Now, you mentioned you do life coaching for other nurses. Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I do mentoring slash coaching. I did a certified coaching program last year where just basically it helps people who work in healthcare and other first responders have just like a balance, a work-life balance. Because a lot of times we're really busy, we're in very stressful situations that it's hard not to bring that home. And so I help them kind of balance the stress and emotions of their work life and how bringing that home, raising a family, kind of doing everything that they want to accomplish at the same time. But I also help mentor them to where they want to go. So flight nursing is kind of one of those like pinnacle jobs in nursing where it's hard to get into, but if you have the right person and the right support, you can kind of pave that path for yourself that interests you the most. And also, I help people with areas that they're a little bit weaker in, so that on their resume and during their interviews, that they feel really good and confident going into them. So in turn, they're able to get some of these high-end jobs that they're wanting to get and kind of accomplish the goals that they've set forth to achieve.
Awesome, awesome. And with being a flight nurse, I'm trying to help our viewers and even help myself kind of map that career path out. Is there like any other like additional or unique training that gets added onto like the regular nursing school? Let's say someone is at West Governors University. They get their degree in nursing, but they want to be a flight nurse.
Yeah.
What other trainings do they have to go through?
Yeah, the great thing about nursing right now is that you don't have to have your bachelor's degree in it. You can get your associate's degree and go to a nursing school for 2 years, and you can be a flight nurse. You don't have to have your bachelor's degree. So it does look great if you do. It's not something you have to have, but however you do, the requirement is you have to have 3 to 5 years of ICU experience, so intensive care unit, or ER experience, emergency department. So that is the requirement to become a flight nurse. It just depends on what state and county you work into, what other stipulations are. Some require you to have your EMT basic license as well. The company I work for does not. So for me to get there, I did 4 years of ICU, and then all the training comes once you get the job. So once you get the job, then they train you to do all kinds of other things. There's a lot of things that a lot of doctors get to do that I get to do because there's extra training for that. And we work under a medical director who's another physician. So we work off all of our protocols and guidelines that we have so we can treat patients. We can put breathing tubes in patients. We can put chest tubes in patients. We can treat them in emergency situations as the basic sole provider there, since a physician's not able to be on the helicopter with us.
Wow, real life superheroes. No cape, no tights, no special mask and boots, but real life superheroes. Janessa, kind of share with us a little bit about how, with the start of the pandemic, how it was like being in your profession when COVID first really hit.
Yeah, I think that what we do already is so stressful, just working in healthcare or as a first responder. When COVID first hit, I was a manager. I had a desk job. So I was a nurse manager for a department at a hospital. And I had just taken that position. So when the pandemic hit and kind of, they all these ICUs were filling up and they needed these nurses that could care for these patients. That's kind of when I decided to go back to flight. So I had done flight nursing prior to that, took a manager position, and then decided to go back because I felt like I was I was really wanting to take care of these patients. So I think for healthcare, people just they surge together. There was more of like teamwork. You know, there was always teamwork in healthcare before, but we had to be there for each other and we had to be there for our patients. And I think that stress level was compounded, but we learned a lot from it over the last couple years. And we really learned like how resilient we are in healthcare. Um, and so I've seen it as a lot of positives have come out of it. And that's kind of how I've always looked at it.
That's powerful. Just thinking about like non-essential workers, and then you got essential workers, and you got things piled up on top of other worries. So now from then to even this current situation now, what are you and some healthcare professionals that you know doing for self-care?
Yeah,
What's
that's a
going on
great
between the
question.
years?
That's a great question. And I think, that is why I ended up getting into coaching too and got certified as a coach, because what's really important is that you take time for yourself. I also have a family of my own. So, um, besides self-care, which I think is very important, you need to take time to do things that you're just interested in aside individually, but also spending time with your family and the people that you care about is a big way to balance out the stressors of the job. So that's important. But I think setting personal goals as well as the career goals that you're setting for yourself is very important, because it can become very all about what you're doing as your profession and as your career, but it's also important to work on things personally, things that you want to achieve throughout the year, and really set I think standards of whatever those are. Really set whatever that goal is and work towards that goal. So having that balance is challenging, but taking time to do the hobbies and the interests that you're individually interested in is a huge, huge thing.
Excellent, excellent. And Janessa, so having spoken at various schools, specifically like in the inner city, I noticed that oftentimes when I come in, like through the hallways, some of the students will confuse me for like a coach.
Mm.
And I'll explain, they're like, no, I'm here to speak at your school. And,
Mhm. Mhm.
some of our youth of color, whether it be brown, black, or what have you, they're not used to seeing people of color, at least in the inner cities, people of color like in like the various professions. Now,
Mhm.
what advice would you give for a person of color in the inner city specifically that is kind of discouraged about furthering their education beyond high school?
Yeah, what I would tell them is that your circumstances do not determine what you're capable of. Because we all have these circumstances in our life, right? Whether it's what our upbringing was, or whether if we've hit some obstacles along the way, or we didn't necessarily have the support of family and friends, if whatever we're doing, that those circumstances and those things that have happened to us do not determine what our future is going to look like. The only one who determines that is you. And you have to be able to dig down deep and find that belief that you can do it, and that you have your own back. So I think, that is the biggest advice that I would be giving, anybody, is that everybody deserves a seat at the table. You have to go out and get it. And the belief starts with yourself. You need to have your own back before you demand everybody else to have yours. So it starts with trusting yourself, loving yourself, believing in yourself. Those are the things that are going to determine how successful you are, not the circumstances or the upbringing or the color of your skin or how rich or how poor you are. None of those things can determine that. It's just starts with you.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Janessa, we have two more pieces left. The first piece will be kind of what we do with critical thinking and getting our youth to kind of look like reflect within themselves and kind of like bring out the best of themselves. And then the second piece will actually be something that's actually for my older sister and some of her fellow nurses. So, first
Okay.
piece, if you were coming up with a documentary or life story movie about yourself, what would be the title? Which actress would play you and why?
Oh, okay. Life story. Well, Brenda's song I've heard looks a lot like me. So I think I'm gonna have to,
Really?
from Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
For a little while, my kids, I even told my kids I was on that show. Do you remember? And they believed me. So let's say Brenda's song would play my documentary. I don't know what I would call it. Maybe Making Your Own Path.
Okay.
Deciding or making your own path. Because I'm a huge believer in that. We get to determine. And that is what I tell people too. Like we're living in our own movie, right? Every day, that's our life, is our own movie, and we get to be the stars in it. And no one else determines how that movie is going to play out but us. So, determining your own path. Brenda's song would be the person who'd be the lead. And then what was the other question?
You pretty much covered like the why, because we always kind of want to get our youth to, see themselves like in the brightest light possible, and kind of add like a positive spin to some of like their challenges that they've experienced in life. And as far as like the last remaining piece, actually you weren't stumped at all. Usually our guests kind of get stuck on that question with the life story movie.
Yeah, no, I love that because that's what I tell people. Like our life is a movie already, and we're the stars. So we get to determine, there's parts in the movies where the heroes get beat down and they get hit with an obstacle, but it's them getting up that makes the story so good.
Yes.
It's what they do after they fail. It's what they do after they get knocked down that brings the hero to the story. So you have to be the own hero in your story. So I already like see myself as my own movie playing out. So, but what I would call it kind of stumped me. So thanks for asking that.
Beautiful. That was smooth from start to finish. We usually try to put our guests on the spot during that segment, but it didn't work on you. Wow.
I love it.
First. And last piece, so are your like consultation services only for nurses in Central Cali, or could it be for nurses, let's say, in New York?
Great question. I actually the majority of the nurses or clients that I have are all over the United States.
Oh,
I
nice,
do have one client in Australia as well. So yeah, it doesn't have to be just where I'm located. I do all of my sessions over Zoom. So that makes the capability of being able to meet in any time zone. I don't just meet with nurses. I meet with some people who are in healthcare that aren't nurses and other first responders as well, or people who are interested in getting in either. I meet with them as well. So kind of all over the place, either interested in it or who are doing it or who want to just advance themselves in their career. So a little bit of both of those things.
Nice. I'm going to tag this segment, like this part of the episode, to my oldest sister.
Yeah.
How would someone be able to reach out to you to to connect with you and see, check in more about your services?
Yeah. So I do most of, my story and my inspiration on Instagram.
Okay.
And you can find me at Janessa Dean Coaching at Instagram. And that's just where, if they're interested in a service, you can also book a consult with me on that Instagram page. There's a link for that. And then we kind of meet up. I can tell you what working together would look like. And then that's when they decide if it's a good fit for them or not.
Beautiful, beautiful. This was thorough, thorough all around. And it was good to get someone from, a profession that I think needs more light to be shed upon, especially for our younger viewers from the inner city specifically. Thank you, Janessa, for taking time out of your schedule. Heavy Brand Podcast, Youth Mentorship Podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.